all three of these types of exporting can be validated in Control Center. So DVT files are proprietary format, of course. When we export DVT files from the Easy client, we only export the DVT file itself. If I do need to create the player is our proprietary format. Say I'm sending it to the police and they don't have Control Center or Latitude, I would have to send the player along. Easy client, you can't do that. It doesn't give you that option. So if you do need to send along a player, you would have to export from Control Center DVT. MP4 is the same across both Control Center and the Easy client. However, the validation file, or the checksum file that we talked about, both MP4 and AVI now have the ability to validate the files, and we're going to see how to do that shortly here in Control Center. DVT obviously is our proprietary format, and the checksum file, or the ways, or the method that we use to be able to validate the file, is embedded right in the DVT file itself, so you don't see it. The MP4 export and the AVI export have an external checksum file, which resides right next to the video file in the root folder of the export. As long as the checksum file is in the same root folder as the actual video file, you are then able to bring it into Control Center and validate that file. So let's just do a couple practice ones, right? We have this is a 52-second clip. We'll do a DVT first, and we'll just hit start. You can see it goes up to the notification area where it renders the video, and then will give us a choice to be able to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all three of these in the same location right next to each other. The DVT export, which this one is right here, so let's go ahead and download that. And we will save it as desktop. And let's see if we'll just get ourselves a new folder here to start right on the desktop. Call it export test. And we'll go ahead and throw in that DVT file right in the folder itself. All right, I'll get rid of that now. Now we're going to do the same exact video itself right here, except we're going to do the different format this time. So this time we're going to go to MP4. We talked about this in the overview, these additions that we've added to MP4 now in the Easy client. Again, same exact video, just MP4 format instead of DVT. We'll hit start. Comes back up into the area again. And you can see the video has now been rendered. So let's download that, and we will save as. Again, we're going to put it right into that same folder. So this will be the MP4. Again, they're both zipped, but once we open them up, we'll be able to see it. And it looks like it's the same exact file name. So we're going to have to put a little clarifier on here that this is MP4. Hit save. All right, so you can see that file now has been downloaded as well. And then finally, we're going to export the last one, AVI. Again, this is what I wanted to mention before. AVI does have a limit in the Easy client of 720p. This is the difference that I was mentioning before. If you do need to export some higher resolution streams, you just need to go via AVI. You'd have to go to Control Center to be able to do it. The Easy client limits it to 720 on an export. So let's go ahead and start that AVI. And you can see the file is rendering. AVI does take a little bit longer than the other two. All right, and you can see that one now is done as well. Let's go ahead and download that. Again, we will save it to the same spot, so we have all three of them together in the right location. And this one we will give a designator of AVI. Not an extension, right? It's just the name itself. It's still a zip folder. And now all three of those have been exported. So now what we want to do is go try to validate these files right in Control Center. So let's take a look. Now you can see on the desktop, we do have our exports test folder. This is our DVT file. This is our AVI file, and this one is the MP4. And we're going to unzip these, extract, extract. All right, now you can see the video file, checksum file. And the last one, the MP4. All right, that is the last one. We'll extract them all. All right, so you can see now we do have, let's go back to the actual folder itself. So you can see we have the 3 zipped files and the 3 unzipped. So let's now go back to look in Control Center. And in Control Center, as I mentioned, there's a couple of different ways to find files to validate. One is the file menu that looks for DVT files themselves. We can also come down here to the file playback tab and just add a clip. Now you'll notice, let's go back to our desktop and to our export test folder. You can see these are the 3 folders that are in here, the ones that have already been unzipped. So let's just try the DVT file itself first. Let's look in there, and there's the DVT file. And you can see I have brought it in here. Now, if I were to double click on this file, it would play here because it's a DVT file, and that's what Control Center is able to play. But what we're looking for is the digital signature over here to prove that this file has not been tampered with. And we do that with this little button right here, Validate Checked Clips. Now keep in mind, if you just do a query for a clip, that's within the system, and if it'll come up just like this, and you highlight it and you try to click on Validate Checked Clips, it will fail every time because the validation, or the checksum, is applied upon export of the system. So if you're just doing a query, it's still in the system. It's when it comes out of the system and is exported that the validation is applied via the checksum file. So let's just validate the DVT, which has the internal checksum file, and you can see there it is. There is no way to invalidate a file like we're going to do with AVI and MP4, because all we have to do is remove that checksum file from the root folder of the MP4 or AVI file, and you will see it will fail. So we have a valid DVT file, has not been tampered with. Let's go ahead and remove that. And now let's go ahead and add another clip. And this time, we're going to go backwards a little bit, back to our folder. We're going to go to the AVI folder. Now, nothing in here matches our search because we're still looking for DVT files. That is the default. We can change that, look for other types of files. And now you can see we do have the AVI file. Now, or excuse me, the AVI file. Now, I'll bring this in. Again, the file is here. And all we're trying to do is prove that the checksum file itself still resides in that folder and nothing has been tampered with. Now, if I double click this and try to bring it in here, that will fail because this is a AVI file and Control Center cannot do that. But what it can do is validate to make sure the checksum has not been tampered with, and you can see it is now valid. Now, this is the AVI file, so what we can do to sort of invalidate that, let's go ahead and remove this first, is we're going to go right back into that AVI folder, which you can see right here. And all we're going to do is we're going to take this video file right here, and we're going to move it outside of the root folder. So we're going to move it out, put it outside. Now the checksum's still here, but they do not reside in the same folder anymore. So now you're going to see it fail. And I have to obviously look on my desktop to pull it up this time. And I will add clip, look for my desktop. There is my, oops, again, it's just looking for DVT at the moment. I want it to look for other things. Now there you can see this is my AVI file. And it has brought it in. Now again, the same exact video file that we just brought in from the previous one, but before it actually resided in the same root folder as the checksum. Now we're going to try this one and see if it validates now. And as you can see, it does not. Now we could reproduce exactly the same thing on the MP4 file, but trust me, it works exactly the same, and we don't need to take up extra time. So that's you can see how files can be validated to prove that there has been no tampering with them. Very important in a court of law in particular, especially the higher level the case goes, the more you want to be able to prove that all the underlying documentation is valid and not corrupt.